It's easy to realize why my friend here is struggling to make meaning of what the finance minister presented yesterday. You see, going into this budget, we all knew that the Ghanaian economy was a complete shambles. The Akufo-Addo administration have simply destroyed this economy, brought it to its knees, and they have done so through willful hopelessness and incompetence. End of story. Everybody knew that. Because going into the budget, inflation was at a 22-year high of about 40%. Our exchange rate has collapsed. Today, when you go to some forex bureaus and you do other transactions, the exchange rate is at $1 to 15 cedis. It is a fact of life. Everybody knows it. Fuel prices have gone through the roof, selling at the highest level ever. Today, a gallon of diesel hovers around 100 cedis and beyond, depending on where you buy it. Our public debt is at the highest level ever, even though the minister tries to conceal the true amount by capping it at September. We all know that it has crossed the 500 billion Ghana cedi mark if you add contingent liabilities, which are due. Indeed, the minister himself alluded to it in the budget. And then the exchange rate depreciation that has swelled up the foreign component of the debt. So it's exceeded 500 billion. And if you compare it to the fact that it was 120 billion at the time that this government took over, and they made so much noise about it, especially the vice president, Alhaji Bawumia, you see that it has been a spectacular collapse in terms of the management of the public debt. So all of these facts were known. And born out of this are unprecedented hardships that Ghanaians have never seen in their lifetime. Except that this budget only confirmed what we all know and revealed that the problems were even deeper than we had earlier imagined. Because to begin with, if you read the budget, government has missed all its targets. The biggest problems we had were the public debt and then the escalating fiscal deficit. You see, government set a target that at the end of this year, they will achieve a budget deficit of 6.2%. By the third quarter, they are doing 7.4%. Indeed, in the third quarter, they said they will achieve 6.2. They've done 7.4, which is 1.2 percentage points above their own targets. Now they say they will achieve 7.7%, and I can assure you that they will exceed that. And we are most likely to end up with double-digit deficits at the end of this financial year. This is only for September, which will be a monumental disaster. What we call the primary balance. That means the difference between your expenditure and revenue. If you take out interest payments, they projected that they will do 1%. Now it is 2%. Far more. That it's 100% increase over the projection that they made for the budget. So everything is off gear. But I'm quite frankly surprised that my brother seeks to find some positive in this, but there's nothing positive about it. Go to the appendices. And I will encourage everybody who reads the budget to go to the appendices, because that's where the real meat is. They hide it under long tables, but that is where the real meat is. Look, they projected that this year they will pay about 40 billion Ghana cedis in interest payments and amortization. That is paying down the debts that we owe. As I speak to you, they have brought back a new projection of 44 billion, which is even likely to be exceeded. They said they will pay interest of 32 billion and amortization of 8 billion. Now they have revised it to 9.7 billion I beg your pardon, for amortization as of the third quarter, and 11.3 billion for this year. So they are going to exceed it by 3 billion Ghana cedis. So the money that we set aside to pay interest is going to go up, which then means that it will affect expenditure in critical sectors of the economy. Look at their revenue projections. You recall that when the 2022 budget was presented, we cautioned that the revenue projections were overambitious. They will never be met. They said, oh, they could meet it. They had e-levy, which will yield 6 to 7 billion per annum. By the third quarter, they were incurring a deficit of 2 billion in the revenue that they had projected for the year. And we expect this revenue shortfall to continue at the end of the fiscal year. So there's nothing about this budget that should excite anybody into thinking that we are going to come out of the economic mess that Alhaji Bawumia supervised anytime soon. Look, you see, it is bad enough to mismanage the economy, but it is even worse when you try to disrespect the people you are governing and insult their intelligence. My brother is sitting here saying that the increase in VAT of 2.5% is not an increase, it's only a restoration of the previous amount. That is not the case. Look, they did not reduce VAT. What they did is that they hived off 5%, which was made up of 2.5% NHIL and 2.5% Get Fund levy. So initially it was 17.5%. 5% of that went into NHIL levy and then Get Fund levy. So they just separated the two. Indeed, if you look at the calculation, because of the separation, you and I were paying more than before. So if you add 2.5% to the 12%, it comes to 15%. If you add it to the previous figure, that's over 20%. So VAT exceeds 20% as I speak to you. If you add the 1% COVID levy, which is essentially VAT, that is 21%. So the claim that you have not increased VAT is insulting to the intelligence of the people you are governing. You've gone to do the thing, it's in black and white, it's glaring, and you are denying that you've not done it. You know, we need to be fair to the people that we are governing. And, Annie, they have also done a reversal of the benchmark revenues. You will call the song and dance that Alhaji Bamia made of it. The ill-advised reversal, the ill-advised reduction in the benchmark revenue, which did not have any impact, really, because prices did not come down, because it was undermined by exchange rate depreciation and inflation. So people were paying more, even when we were told that the benchmark revenues had been reversed. Now they have brought it back. So it's also going to lead to an increase. If you're interested in corporate tax, now it has moved, they've increased the threshold from 25% to 35%, but that is for people within the higher income bracket. So it is perhaps not appropriate to discuss it. But even rich people also have a right to complain if they are paying more than before. Then, in addition to this, they come and tell us that they are going to do a debt exchange. You know, they deserve the equivalent of the Nobel Prize in the use of euphemisms. They are going to do debt exchange. It is simply debt restructuring. What it simply means is that you are going to get a haircut. If you have lent money to government and have agreed on a certain amount of interest over a certain period and a certain amount of principal, the Minister of Finance has announced that you are going to get a haircut. You will not get what was promised you. And this morning, Joy FM is reporting, and there's no reason to dispute what they have put out. Already, bondholders have formed consortiums. They have hired experts and lawyers to help them negotiate. Government itself has appointed at least 2 consultants to engage in restructuring. The objective is that they are not going to give people what they promised them. It is almost cast in stone that external bondholders are going to suffer a 30% cut in their principal and a 20% cut in their coupon rate or interest rates. The maturity rates, the maturity dates for their bonds will be extended by 20 years. For domestic bondholders, the whole of 2023, there will be no interest payments. In 2024, they will get 5%. In 2025, they will get 10%. This is not what they agreed with them. This is a haircut. Meanwhile, the president of Ghana has stood in front of you and I on television and told us that there will be no haircut. So even the credibility of this government is in tatters. You cannot believe what the president tells you. A whole president looks Ghanaians in the eye and tells us that there will be no haircut. When we knew that there will be haircuts, simply because the opposition had raised it through the ranking member on the finance committee in parliament, the president had to deny what he knew to be true. So now he has been badly exposed. He can't even tell us the truth. A whole president cannot tell us the truth. You look at us and lie. When we knew that the thing is the case. Now imagine people who are pensioners, who have pensions with insurance companies and Senate and others, and these monies have been invested in bonds. They live off the interests that are paid on these bonds. So pensioners can look forward to a terrible 2023, 2024, and 2025. People who have bought government bonds, who have worked so hard and put their money in government bonds, are being told that the interest that you look forward to in order to live your life, finance your expenditure for the whole of 2023 will not be forthcoming. And that in 2024, you will get only 5% of it. In 2025, you get 10%. Already, inflation has whittled down the value of the money you were going to get. Exactly. Now, you are not going to get it at all. So how would people who have invested their life savings in bonds fare in these terrible economic times? And somebody wants to sit on television and trivialize this. This is the biggest disaster in the history of Ghana's economic management in the last 4 or 5 decades. And Annie, what it will effectively mean is that we are going to default. The day that they announce the plan, already they said they will take a bill to Parliament. The day they take it to Parliament and it is approved, it will be a default. We have defaulted on our debt payments. And it is going to lead to unprecedented damage to our image as a country. And you will see the reaction of investors and the international financial community to this. It means that we will be barred from accessing credit on the international market for a period of time. Because nobody will lend money to somebody who tells you, I cannot pay. I will not pay you the interest, I will not pay you the principal. So it is a disaster. And it cements the fact that this is the worst government Ghana has had under the Fourth Republic in terms of economic mismanagement, if not the worst we've had in our country's history. Now, he wants to rationalize and explain away what a net freeze is. But you see, it is God that has humiliated them this way. Especially Alhaji Bawumia. You know the song and dance he made out of this. Look, in 2008, the late Kojo Bahari introduced this net freeze concept because government was worried about the rising wage bill and the indiscipline that had come to underpin public sector recruitment. So he issued a directive to all departments, ministries, and agencies not to recruit people without express authorization from the ministry. And then he said that exceptions were going to be made for some sectors. When we came to power in 2009, the policy continued. We actually made an exception that as for education, health, and security, in other words, the recruitment of nurses, doctors, and security personnel, they will not be affected by this net freeze. But the other segments of the civil and public service, once a vacancy existed, it will be filled. Alhaji Bawumia became the poster boy for NPP propaganda on this and constantly vilified the NDC government, calling us incompetent because of this. Today, the finance minister goes to Parliament and says there will be a freeze on public sector recruitment. My brother here has tried to water it down and said that it will be a net freeze. But the minister's words did not speak about a net freeze. He says there will be a freeze on public sector recruitment. So the very thing that they criticized and mocked others for are the very things that they are doing today. Shameless U-turn. Shameless, unprincipled economic management. Alhaji Bawumia, he was the propaganda poster boy for this. And constantly, MPP propagandists will recite this as reason why they were a preferred government or a preferred alternative. Today, they have told you, if you're a young person watching me, you cannot look forward to employment in the public sector. Already, they are struggling. When they put in place that ad hoc NAPCO policy, what happened? Today, those young men and women have been thrown onto the streets. Even the little amount owed them, government is unable to pay. Now, they've introduced something they call U-Start and are making a lot of noise about it. Do you know how much money has gone to that? 1.9 million Ghana cedis. 1.9 million Ghana cedis.
For the U-Start?
For U-Start. So the millions of unemployed Ghanaians are going to be taken care of with 1.9 million Ghana. Such a paltry, insignificant amount compared to the extent and magnitude of the unemployment crisis that we are facing. So if you're a young person, this is the worst possible budget that could have been read. Because you cannot look forward to gaining employment in the public sector. The private sector is also squeezed. Companies are closing down. And workers are being laid off because of the harsh economic conditions. Companies are simply not able to make ends meet. And what prescriptions does this government have to address the problem? Zero. Cosmetic policies.
Just giving prescriptions.
Which prescriptions? What employment prescriptions are they giving? And how are they going to address the collapse of the exchange rates? The measures they've outlined, what have been their effects? The only thing that has I beg your pardon, the only thing that has sustained us is this cocoa syndicated loan that came in, which I'm sure by now is running out. So by the time the Christmas season picks up, you see that the city depreciates again. Already it's at 15 cities.
Our time is actually up, but let's wrap up. Going forward, we know that you, as a political party, also want to come into office. We've gotten to the point where we are now. We've seen the measures. Maybe you're not satisfied with it, but that's what government has to put in place. What do we have to do?
You see, the point is that they don't want to do. But there's a very recalcitrant government. When suggestions were made,
I don't think government is even painting the picture as it should.
Look,
it doesn't look good.
This cosmetic measures they've announced and are claiming are cost-cutting measures are a joke. If you want to save money and cut expenditure, these are not the things you do. These are cosmetic. The effect will be a drop in the ocean. This is a government that believes that the entire NPP party must live off government funds. So for that reason, they have jam-packed government machinery with so many people who do not have any functional necessity. At a point, this president appointed 120 ministers, which did not make any kind of sense. Despite public criticism and a clarion call for a reduction, he refused until the 2020 election results, and he saw that Ghanaians meant business. Now we have almost like 90 ministers. They told us that they won't have deputy ministers for the regions, 16 regions. But each regional minister has a special assistant.
Oh, but
who essentially listen. No, Annie. Their functions are equivalent to regional ministers.
No.
Go to the presidency.
No.
They have 337 political appointees. 337. This has never happened in our history. Everybody who is anybody in the MPP is at the Jubilee House or Flagstaff House, serving in some capacity with no functional necessity, absolutely needless. The president does not want to do anything about it, and so he is resorting to cosmetic measures that you've cut fuel by half. You multiply the amount of money you will pay for 337 people compared to the number that we had previously. The number of ministers you have, the number of special assistants that you have. Look at the CEOs. 3, 4, 5 CEOs in one state entity, and you lament about their cost and the losses they are incurring. How are you going to make any profit if you have 3 or 4 CEOs for one entity? A loss-making entity has 4 deputy CEOs. President Mahama gave the blueprint in his speech on the economy about a month ago, when he said that you need to cut costs by reducing the size of government drastically. He is not the only person who has said it. And every sane voice in our economic management and national life has said that we need to reduce the size of government. Civil society organizations have made the same call. The minister says they will not create new agencies. You see, it is not the creation of new agencies that's a problem. The new agencies they've created that exist must be scrapped. They are not necessary. This whole
Doc, why is that so difficult?
Because they need to satisfy political party fanatics. That's all that is about.